What's up everyone? I wanted to talk about Necalli from Street Fighter V. I kind of feel like Street Fighter had an idea with him that they never followed through in, but throughout a lot of hints in the story mode, the character stories and a lot of other things, there was something going on that they wanted to imply but they never got through with it. First thing I noticed about Necalli, he was of Aztec origin, so it immediately got to my mind to tie him into another Mexican character from Street Fighter, which would be T.Hawk. They do have a few similar moves. Necalli's V-skill has him hammer the ground, creating an earthquake. Omega Mode T.Hawk does this as well. They have a rushing attack, an anti-air variation, and a diving attack, albeit Necalli does a diving kick. T.Hawk does a diving headbutt or body tackle, but generally they have some similar moves, and also a command grab. Both of them grab you by the face with one hand, jump into the air and throw you to the floor. I wondered, was that coincidental? Most likely, maybe, or maybe it's intentional, maybe there is a connection between the two, but Street Fighter V don't even have T-Hawk in the game and make no references to him and don't even hint at him, which is strange considering that Street Fighter V story is also about stopping M.Bison and freeing the dolls, which would be in T-Hawk's interests if you look at his origin, but yet they didn't put him in the game, which felt odd. Now, in regards to Necalli, what could his connection to T-Hawk be? Well, I wonder if it has anything to do with the warrior prophet. In Necalli's story, we have this ancient Aztec prophet, literally called the warrior prophet. He predicts that Necalli would, in 100 years or so, fight with Ryu, Dalsim, and Bison. And it does happen in story mode, except Necalli fails to absorb their souls and take their powers. It's interesting because Necalli's original appearance is a sort of green looking monster, which I will refer back to a bit later. When Necalli uses his power to steal your soul, he sort of stretches over you like Venom, sort of like he's made of liquid. We see him do a lot of liquidy body stuff in the cinematics, but never when he fights, which is a bit strange in my opinion. If you have the ability to turn yourself into liquid and stretch around, why not use this in battle? But either way, he absorbs the warrior prophet and his green colour changes to brown. He now has the scars that the warrior prophet has, so he appropriates the warrior prophet's appearance. On top of that, I wondered if any of Necalli's moves might be what the warrior prophets would know, such as the rushing attack when Necalli runs at you and slashes. I wondered if the warrior prophet would have had that same move, but he uses the daggers. And then we look at someone like T.Hawk, any of his moves that are similar to Necalli. The only big difference is Necalli has sort of clawed or open hand attacks, whilst T.Hawk usually has chopping or knife hand slices. So it made me wonder if this warrior prophet is an ancestor to T.Hawk's tribe. What would be the case is Necalli defeats the warrior prophet, the rest of that tribe lock Necalli away under a seal, and what happens is that T.Hawk's tribe are descended from this same tribe that the warrior prophet's from. What do we know about T.Hawk's backstory? Well, his father is a warrior hawk, the leader of the Thunderfoot tribe. According to the Udon comics, a warrior hawk was friends with a German doctor who married into the tribe and had a daughter named Julia. T.Hawk and Julia are friends in childhood and they will become lovers when they grow up. And Bison comes along and he murders a warrior hawk, presumably the German doctor too. He kidnaps Julia and another girl called Little Eagle, who's another friend of T.Hawk's. Julia becomes Julie the doll, Little Eagle becomes Noembelu, so T.Hawk generally should have been in Street Fighter V, at least for the doll parts of the story, even if he has nothing to do with M.Bison. Majority of T.Hawk's storylines is pretty much revenge on Bison and freeing Julia and Noembelu. So it's strange that he is not part of Street Fighter V in my opinion. However, I wondered, what did Bison really want with his land? In Street Fighter Alpha 3, he states he just needed T.Hawk to hate him because he is powered by negative emotions. In Street Fighter V, that people's fear empowered Bison the same way T.Hawk's hatred of him did. Either way, while it's not fully canon about T.Hawk fighting Bison, it gives us some insight on what Bison needed, but I felt like Bison destroying T.Hawk's village and driving the Thunderfoot tribe out may have something to do with Necalli. Let's say Necalli was trapped there by the Thunderfoot tribe because they are descendants of that same warrior prophet and they didn't want Necalli to get away. And Bison somehow finds out about this Necalli being and is interested. he gets rid of the Thunderfoot tribes, kidnaps 2 of them for his doll project, whilst he uses Necalli for other things. And it's interesting because Bison in the story mode is not surprised at whatever Necalli is. He sees him and he's not surprised, unlike Nash, who asks, "What the hell are you?" and Ryu, who would also say something along the lines of, "What the hell is this monster?" But Bison is not fazed. Interestingly, Bison's win quote says something along the lines of, "Everything is going according to plan." So he clearly knows what Necalli is and has some kind of plan with him. My possible theory is Bison uses Necalli's DNA to create his spare bodies. Everything to do with Bison's extra bodies, Seth, and even those shape-shifting robots that Fung uses. In Alex's character story, Fung kidnaps Alex and makes him fight these shape-shifting robots. I wouldn't be surprised if shape-shifting robots were made from Necalli's DNA. And this also ties into Urien, the Illuminati, and the shape-shifting robots they have, which we would know one of them is 12 from Street Fighter 3, and there's also 11, who is mentioned in Street Fighter 5 story mode. And this is where it kind of ties in together. You see, Necalli's original form is this sort of green, monstrous form. He's got green skin. We also see in the cinematics he can turn to liquid and sort of melt into the floor and vaporize, and every time he reappears he kind of drops in from the sky. Bit strange why he does this, but it's said that he can possess animals. We never actually see him do this. We see him shapeshift a lot, usually turning into liquid, but we also see him encounter Charlie Nash in the astral plane as a sheep for some reason. But I wouldn't be surprised if Necalli can actually shapeshift. Like I said, many of the character stories and cinematics show Necalli can stretch around someone like he's the Venom symbiote. He pretty much does this to Akuma before Akuma explodes out of him. So I like to believe that Necalli's sort of liquidy shapeshifting is something he can do, and somehow his DNA was used for the 12 and 11 robots, all these shapeshifting robots we see in Street Fighter. Necalli supposedly can steal your powers, your soul, as well as your appearance. We see his green form turns into brown skin with scars after he absorbs a warrior prophet, so it's likely his appearance should have changed if he successfully absorbed Ryu, Dhalsim, and M.Bison, and likely would have had their powers and moves. But we never see this happen, that's the thing. What I find interesting is that in the Street Fighter story mode, specifically Balrog, who is not surprised at seeing Necalli, refers to Necalli as the Mudman. Necalli goes after Balrog, Ed, and Urien in Balrog and Urien story, I think. If you look at the character story, he encounters them. Urien is not surprised at what Necalli is, so he clearly knows what Necalli is, whilst Balrog just refers to him as the Mudman. So Balrog is made to fight Necalli. My guess was that Necalli was after Urien's power, or even Ed's power, but we never really get confirmation of what he wanted. But Urien and Balrog refer to Necalli as some kind of Mudman, and what's interesting is that another story mode, it's confirmed Urien has the 11 robot, which is the predecessor to 12. 11 is one of those robots that can copy other people's abilities by shapeshifting into them. But then Colleen says she needs some help resurrecting Charlie Nash, and this is where Urien offers to use 11 as the basis to resurrect Nash. And it's interesting because he refers to 11 as being made of mud and says to Colleen that she can have all the mud she needs to resurrect Nash. And it's strange that not only Necalli is referred to as being a mudman because he's kind of slimy and covered in dirt, but why is a shapeshifting robot being referred to as being made of mud? Could it be that the shapeshifting robots that the Illuminati and Shadow Lu uses are made from Necalli's DNA? They can shapeshift and copy powers, the same way Necalli can absorb your soul, copy your appearance and your powers. Maybe that's how they work. It's interesting because Charlie Nash's little green hand and the sort of green flesh he has, they kind of look like the same shade of green Necalli's original appearances, and whilst they don't do any shapeshifting, Nash is able to absorb energy with them, the same way you'd expect Necalli would. This is also why Necalli seems to be chasing Nash as well in story mode. The Warrior Prophet doesn't predict that, but we see that Necalli encounters Nash on the astral plane and then chases him, Rashid and Azam around in the Shadow Lu base. Why is Necalli chasing Nash? Could be the same reason he was going after Urian, Balrog and Ed. Balrog and Ed were being paid by Urian for information on Shadowloo. It's likely Balrog and Ed gave them the information they needed to create more shape-shifting robots, like 11 and 12. We see Fang already uses these robots to fight Alex, so it's likely Balrog and Ed sold that information to Urian, and Urian started creating his own robots. 11 was used for Charlie Nash's resurrection, whilst 12 is used in Street Fighter 3. The reason why Necalli targets characters like Nash, Balrog, Ed, Urian is because they all have used his DNA to make these shape-shifting robots. If that's why he's been chasing them, there's some kind of connection Necalli knows about or can sense, but Street Fighter never went into it. But what do you guys think about this? Do you think that all of this ties together? Because I personally think that that's something that Street Fighter should have hinted at. T.Hawk should have been in the story mode against Shadowloo, helping Cammy free the dolls instead of like Juri. I feel like Juri could have been doing her own thing in the story. But in the case of Necalli, I would not be surprised if there was supposed to be hints that 1. Shadowloo and the Illuminati have been using his DNA for the likes of Charlie Nash, which is why Charlie Nash's hand is green and has absorbing abilities, much like Necalli's original form. It's also the reason why these robots have these liquid shape-shifting abilities and power copying abilities, because that's what Necalli can also do. He can liquefy his body, steal your soul, appropriate your appearance, and copy your powers. He can shapeshift into animals, which is a wasted potential in my opinion. It would have been interesting if Necalli could turn into animals whilst fighting, but he doesn't. I'll say a lot of Necalli's very normal looking special attacks, like his rushing attacks, his grabs, his earthquake punch, is all possibly connected to T.Hawk. Possibly T.Hawk and his warrior prophet are from the same tribe, but just different points in time. And a lot of T.Hawk's moves are just kind of modern versions of how the warrior prophet would have fought, and Necalli absorbing the warrior prophet means he fights a way more savage variation. Well, that's just my little theory. I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about this, so let me know in the comment section, and thanks for watching.